Have you ever replayed the same conversation hundreds of times in your mind? Maybe you kept wondering, why did they say that? What should I have said instead? What if I made a mistake? Or perhaps you spent an entire night imagining things that never even happened. You tell yourself you're thinking, but in reality, you're trapped. Because there's a huge difference between thinking and overthinking. Thinking helps you solve problems. Overthinking creates problems that don't even exist. And here's the painful truth. Most of the battles that exhaust you never happen in the real world. They happen only inside your own mind. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with invisible bricks. Each brick is a regret from yesterday, a fear about tomorrow, an opinion someone had about you, a mistake you can't forgive yourself for. The backpack becomes heavier every day, not because life keeps adding weight, but because you refuse to put any of it down. This is exactly what overthinking does. It convinces you that if you think long enough, you'll eventually find peace. But the opposite is true. The more you feed your thoughts, the hungrier they become. Thousands of years ago, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus observed something extraordinary. He realized that human beings don't suffer because of reality. They suffer because of the stories they create about reality. Read that again. Not reality, the story. Someone doesn't reply to your message. Reality ends there. But your mind begins writing a novel. They must be angry. They don't respect me. I've ruined everything. Hours later, you're emotionally exhausted. Not because of what happened, but because of everything your imagination created afterward. This is why overthinking is so dangerous. It disguises itself as preparation. It whispers, if you think a little longer, you'll finally be ready. If you analyze every possibility, nothing bad can happen. If you worry enough, you'll stay safe. But has worrying ever truly protected you? Or has it only stolen your peace before anything even happened? Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, ruled an empire during wars, political betrayal, disease, and constant uncertainty. Yet he understood something that many of us still struggle to learn today. The future belongs to itself. The present belongs to you. Think about that. How much of your life are you actually living? And how much of it are you imagining? Most people spend today worrying about tomorrow, then tomorrow worrying about the next day, until one day they realize they never truly lived at all. Stoicism teaches us that peace isn't found by controlling every possibility. Peace is found by mastering the only thing that has ever truly belonged to you, your own mind. Picture a lake on a calm morning. The water is perfectly still. It reflects the mountains, the sky, and the rising sun with incredible clarity. Now imagine throwing hundreds of stones into that lake. The surface becomes disturbed. Nothing can be seen clearly anymore. Your mind works exactly the same way. Every unnecessary fear, every imagined conversation, every regret, every what if is another stone disturbing the water. The problem isn't life. The problem is that your mind never gets a chance to become still. And here's something remarkable. Most of the things you worry about today will never happen. Think back to a year ago. Remember all the things that kept you awake at night? How many of those fears actually became reality? Probably very few. Yet your mind treated every possibility as if it were already happening. That's what overthinking does. It turns imagination into suffering, before anything has even occurred. The Stoics believe there is an enormous difference between preparation and obsession. Preparation asks, what can I do today? Obsession asks, what if everything goes wrong? Preparation creates action. Obsession creates paralysis. One moves you forward, the other keeps you frozen. Have you ever delayed making a decision because you wanted absolute certainty? The perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect answer. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Eventually nothing changed. Not because you lacked ability, but because overthinking convinced you that waiting was safer than acting. The Stoics had little patience for this. They understood that clarity often comes after action, not before it. You don't learn to swim by standing on the shore thinking about water. You step into it. You don't become courageous by imagining courage. You practice courage. Likewise, you don't escape overthinking by thinking harder. You escape it by learning when to stop. This is where true freedom begins. Not when life becomes predictable, but when you stop demanding that it must be. Because uncertainty isn't your enemy. Your resistance to uncertainty is. The person who overthinks wants guarantees. The Stoic seeks something greater, the ability to remain calm even without guarantees. Imagine two travelers walking through a forest. One spends every minute looking over their shoulder, terrified that something might happen. The other notices the same uncertainty, but continues walking anyway. Both face the same path, only one actually enjoys the journey. Life works exactly the same way. You can spend years fearing every possible outcome, or you can accept that uncertainty has always been part of being alive. The Stoics chose acceptance, not because they expected life to be easy, but because they knew peace begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. And that may be the first secret to stopping overthinking forever. Not controlling every thought, but refusing to believe every thought deserves your attention. So if overthinking steals your peace, why does your mind keep doing it? The answer may surprise you. Your mind isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you. For thousands of years, the human brain evolved to search for danger. If our ancestors ignored threats, they didn't survive. So the brain learned to constantly ask, what could go wrong? That instinct once kept us alive. But today, it often keeps us anxious. Instead of worrying about wild animals or harsh weather, we worry about text messages, job interviews, other people's opinions, conversations that happened months ago. The brain still searches for danger. Only the dangers have changed. This is why overthinking feels so convincing. It tells you that if you just think a little longer, you'll finally feel safe. But have you ever noticed what actually happens? You think for 10 minutes, then 30, then an hour. Then suddenly it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Nothing has been solved. You've simply become more exhausted. The Stoics understood that the mind can become addicted to unnecessary thinking, not because thinking is useful, but because it creates the illusion of control. Imagine trying to calm the ocean by rearranging the waves. No matter how hard you try, the waves keep coming. That's exactly what happens when you try to control every possible outcome in your life. The more you fight uncertainty, the more uncertainty seems to grow. Marcus Aurelius practiced a habit that is incredibly powerful even today. Whenever his mind became overwhelmed, he would bring himself back to one simple question. What is my duty right now? Notice what he didn't ask. He didn't ask, what if tomorrow goes badly? He didn't ask, what does everyone think of me? He didn't ask, what if I fail? He asked only one thing. What needs my attention in this moment? That question changes everything. Because overthinking always pulls you away from the present. It drags you into yesterday or pushes you into tomorrow. But your life is happening only here, only now. Think about how often your mind leaves the present moment. You're eating dinner, but thinking about work. You're with your family, but replaying an old argument. You're walking outside, but worrying about next month. Your body is here, your mind is somewhere else entirely. And then you wonder why peace feels impossible to find. Peace cannot exist in a future that hasn't arrived, nor can it exist in a past that no longer exists. It can only exist in the present. This is why the Stoics train themselves to return to the present again and again. Not because the present is always easy, but because it's the only place where action is possible. Here's another trap of overthinking. It convinces you that every thought deserves equal attention. But imagine sitting beside a busy highway. Thousands of cars pass every hour. Do you chase every single one? Of course not. You simply watch them go by. Your thoughts should be treated the same way. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean it deserves your belief. A thought saying you're going to fail is still just a thought. A thought saying they're judging you is still just a thought. A thought saying you'll never be good enough is still just a thought. The Stoics understood that wisdom begins when you stop obeying every voice inside your head. One of the greatest freedoms you'll ever experience is realizing that you are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. Imagine sitting in a theater. Your thoughts are the movie playing on the screen. Some scenes are inspiring, others are frightening, some are completely fictional. You don't have to jump into the screen every time something dramatic appears. You can simply watch and let it pass. This simple shift changes everything. Instead of saying, I am anxious, you begin saying, I notice that anxiety is present. Instead of, I am a failure, you ask. Is this thought actually true? That small change creates distance between you and your emotions, and in that distance, freedom begins. Seneca once warned that we often suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think about your own life. How many sleepless nights were caused by situations that never actually happened? How many hours have been lost worrying about conversations that existed only in your imagination? How many opportunities have you missed because fear convinced you to stay where it felt safe? Overthinking doesn't protect your future, it quietly steals your present. Every minute spent imagining disaster is one less minute spent building the life you actually want. That's why the Stoics place so much value on action. When your mind becomes noisy, move. Take the first step, write the first sentence, make the difficult phone call, start the project, go for your walk. Read the page, do something. Action has a remarkable ability to silence thoughts that thinking alone never can, because confidence is built through action, not endless analysis. Remember this, the goal is not to stop every thought. That's impossible. Even Marcus Aurelius had difficult thoughts. Even Seneca experienced anxiety. Even Epictetus faced uncertainty. The difference was that they refused to become servants of their own minds. They learned to let thoughts come, without allowing those thoughts to become their masters. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. A peaceful mind isn't an empty mind. It's a mind that knows which thoughts deserve a seat at the table and which ones should simply be allowed to leave without a goodbye. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize something profound. The mind will always have something to worry about. If it's not money, it will be relationships. If it's not relationships, it will be health. If it's not health, it will be the future. The destination changes, but the habit remains the same. That's why the Stoics never tried to create a life without problems. They trained themselves to become people who were no longer ruled by them. Think of a tree standing in the middle of a storm. The wind pushes against it, rain beats down on it, thunder shakes the sky. But the tree doesn't panic, it bends, it adapts. And when the storm passes, it is still standing. Your mind can become like that tree. Not because life suddenly becomes peaceful, but because you stop expecting life to be free of storms. One of the greatest gifts Stoicism offers is this understanding. You don't need certainty to have peace. Most people believe they'll finally relax when every problem is solved, when they have enough money, when they find the perfect relationship, when they get the promotion, when everyone approves of them. But life doesn't work that way. As soon as one problem disappears, another one arrives. If your peace depends on a perfect life, you'll spend your whole life waiting. And the Stoics chose a different path. They built peace that existed before circumstances became perfect. And that's why they were so resilient. Imagine holding a glass of water. At first, it feels light. Hold it for 1 minute, no problem. Hold it for an hour. Your arm begins to ache. Hold it all day. The weight becomes unbearable. The glass didn't become heavier. You simply refuse to put it down. Overthinking works exactly the same way. A single worry isn't what breaks you. It's carrying that worry hour after hour, day after day, month after month. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply put the glass down. The Stoics also practiced gratitude, not as a motivational trick, but as a way of seeing reality more clearly. Overthinking constantly asks, what's missing? Gratitude asks, what's already here? Overthinking says, I'll be happy when. Gratitude says, I'm thankful now. Notice how those two minds create completely different lives. One is always chasing, the other is learning to appreciate. Marcus Aurelius ended many of his reflections by reminding himself how precious time really is. He knew something we often forget. Every hour spent trapped in unnecessary worry is an hour you'll never get back. One day, you'll look back on this season of your life. You won't wish you had worried more. You won't wish you had imagined more worst-case scenarios. You'll wish you had laughed more, loved more, lived more, present more. That realization changes everything. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your life has been stolen by thoughts that never came true? How many beautiful mornings were lost because your mind was somewhere else? How many opportunities passed by while you waited for fear to disappear? The Stoics would tell you this: courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting wisely even when fear is present. The same is true for overthinking. You don't have to wait until your mind becomes completely quiet. You simply refuse to let the noise make your decisions. There is incredible power in saying, "My thoughts are welcome to come, but they are not in charge." Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Instead of immediately reaching for your worries, you take one deep breath. You remind yourself, "I can only live today." You focus on the next right action, not the next 100, just the next one. Slowly, your mind begins to trust you. It realizes that you are no longer feeding every fearful thought, and like a fire without fuel, the overthinking begins to lose its strength. Will it disappear overnight? Probably not. Even the Stoics practice these lessons every single day. Mastering the mind is not a destination, it's a lifelong discipline. Some days will feel easy, others won't. But every time you choose action over endless analysis, presence over regret, faith over fear, you become a little stronger than you were yesterday. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll notice something extraordinary. The situations that once kept you awake all night no longer disturb your sleep. The opinions that once consumed your thoughts no longer control your emotions. The future that once terrified you no longer steals your present. Not because life changed, but because you changed. That is the Stoic secret. You don't conquer overthinking by defeating every thought. You conquer it by refusing to give every thought your attention, because your attention is your life. Where you place it, your future follows. So choose carefully. Choose purpose over panic. Choose action over hesitation. Choose presence over imagination. Choose wisdom over worry. And above all, remember this one sentence whenever your mind begins to race. You cannot always control the thoughts that enter your mind, but you can always choose which ones are allowed to stay. Make that your daily practice. Protect your attention. Protect your peace. Protect your time. Because in the end, the person who masters their mind doesn't escape life's challenges. They simply stop allowing those challenges to steal the joy of being alive. If this message spoke to you, carry this promise into today. I will not waste today worrying about a tomorrow that hasn't arrived. Because the moment you stop living inside your fears, you finally begin living your life.